some discussing a few strategies to cultivate a gender-neutral learning environment. The objectives are to identify some ways in which gender bias is introduced in schools, and to look at some ways in which we can consider the use of gender neutral language and selection of teaching materials. And we'll also look at discussing a few gender neutral school practices. So I have this image of children playing at a school in the playground, and I wanted to use this to just have a discussion about what the term gender neutrality means and whether the description shown here matches with what we already know about gender neutrality. Any thoughts about that?
So I'll tell you my views. If I'm looking at this picture, there are the boys wearing pink and the girls
Yeah,
wearing blue. Okay,
yeah,
usually it is the opposite. When you go
opposite.
into a hospital and when a baby is born, the
Yes,
blue is always wrapped on a boy's this,
boy.
and girl
Yes.
is this. Another thing I also see that football, usually
Hmm.
it is a game that boys play.
Correct.
Girls do not play, but here I can see that in this school they follow general neutrality and they don't have that biases that blue should be girl
Yes.
and blue should be boys
Football.
and pink
Yes.
should be girls, and football
Exactly.
is only played by girls. That is
In
what,
by boys.
that's my
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
Exactly. And Vishal, any thoughts from you? Uh, Pooja, you just joined in. I'm sure you're hopping around to check if everything's okay, but we're just looking at gender neutrality and seeing
Yeah,
whether we see
I,
that in this.
I think, yeah, I think I agree with Ms. Ashika's point also that it's just like, it's so, how do I say, it's support, it looks very supportive. Like, okay, we also support our, how do I say, opposite gender, or
Mhm.
how do I put it in proper word? I don't know. But I think it looks great. This is something that we need to, how do I say, like in certain East Asian parts
Mhm.
of the world, I mean, like in East Asia, there is still gender
Hmm.
inequality. So
Right.
this is a very good topic to go ahead with. Fantastic. Yeah.
Absolutely. And in addition to what you already stated, I was also thinking the boy has long hair, and that's, I mean, it's not, short hair is also not something, seems like the culture promotes that,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thinking that short hair is for boys,
Yeah.
long hair is for girls. So that was also something I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, in addition to the colors, it seems like it's the same uniform also for the boys and girls. It's not different. So in
Yes.
addition to the colors, that's also one thing that I saw. So I was thinking about why we need to talk about gender neutrality, and especially at a young age, and if what could be the impact of stereotypes learned at a young age. And I'm thinking about what the long-term impact could be if children are grown in an environment where they learn thinking that boys are like this and girls are like that. So before we watch the video, is there anything that comes to your mind in terms of the long-term impact of gender stereotypes?
I think long-term impact is long. If we create an equality amongst both the genders, I think we are looking at a very constructive based society. Like partnering together as it's like, I would not use the word collaborative because it's very pedagogical to use. But I'm
Yes.
just doing that social research. That's why I'm able to really enjoy what you're talking actually. So in terms of making sure that both, I mean, when it comes to gender equality, it's constructive, number one.
Mhm.
Constructive in the sense like things really are, could be improved, and it really can create a lot of quality on the long
Mhm.
run on a daily life as well.
Mhm.
But because both the genders, in a way, it's, I don't want to get into too scientific details because I have two science
Mhm.
teachers here, but I would but I would say it's like, it's in the, it has to be accepted DNA wise, because that there are things
Yeah.
that men can do and there are things that women can do,
Yeah.
obviously. But when it comes to accomplishing something for the society, I think
Mhm.
it has a huge positive impact if it's well acknowledged on from both the
Right.
ends, actually.
Absolutely. And yes, while biologically we have different abilities, males and females have different abilities, and those
Yeah,
differences are great.
yeah,
But in terms of like you said, there are certain things. I'm also thinking in terms of the kind of choices we make in the future. If growing up in a gender stereotypical environment limits opportunities for people, and it might even maybe even for example, I'm thinking um, a child might grow up and say that, okay, I'm a woman, so maybe army is not for me, you know,
yeah, yeah,
something like that. So or maybe a male growing up and saying, okay, nurse is a job that women do, you know. So maybe I'm just wondering if even in terms of careers, it kind of restricts the
yeah.
way people end up thinking. And I'm also thinking about the attitudes towards each other. A person who grows up in a stereotypical environment might also end
Sure.
up treating other people in a discriminating kind of a way.
Yeah,
And I actually, while preparing for this, I came across some really good insights into a recent study about the kind of impacts that people have. We did discuss a few, but there are a few more in this short video.
yeah,
So I'll
yeah.
just play it for us. It's
Great, great.
I'm just going to pause here for a second. I think I like that um, if we see the boys and girls, both are playing with blocks, whereas in a lot of learning environments, there's a separate play area where there are blocks for boys and dolls for girls and so on. But
Yeah.
the same toys being used by children and playing together. That's so that's just a summary of what we discussed in right before. More or less, this is just a text version of that. So now just coming to some ways in which gender bias can be introduced by educators or as schools. One is in through the content that we select or create. Two is through the verbal or written interactions. And three is the general culture and practices of the school. So that's what I plan to discuss here. So let's say I am teaching and let's say I'm teaching about politics or arts or science or scientists. I'm just wondering if uh, a student or children see the that's the New Zealand Prime Minister, that's with her team here. And that's a group of female ballet dancers, and that's a group of three male astronauts, and that's Marie Curie with a group of male scientists. So let's say I want to teach about um, role models and I want to give an idea about what's going on. What's the impact of using images or content like this? What kind of message do you think goes out to children?
I think it just reveals the importance of understanding perspective, basically. It's just understanding that uh, it should not be a dominating, it's a very complex thing to say, but it should not be psychologically, it should not indicate that it's just a one-way traffic. Like, it has to be only males are certainly able to do something, but there has to be a perception of the opposite gender as well. So
Right.
I think that there is a kind of positive message that goes across these images, that it's important to have a second perception, that traditionally in patriotic society like Japan, for example, where
Right.
it's highly dominating in terms of males versus females when it comes to the structure of the society.
Right.
Especially the first picture on the top left, where
Yeah.
Jacinda Ardern, we observe that she's leading the country, the entire cabinet.
Right.
That shows that there is more value. That I find that picture to be very strong, along with
Right.
Marie Curie's picture with male
Exactly.
scientists as well. So I think
Right.
overall, just to summarize this, I think it's strong messages that goes across versus those two pictures on the right hand side that depicts. So
Right.
perception.
That's actually quite an interesting insight, because what I was thinking about was inadequate representation or unequal representation of men and women. But what you shared is a new perspective that I didn't think about, where in this picture, everyone is kind of looking up to a female political leader. And there is Marie Curie, who's again, breaking stereotypes there. So that's interesting. I will just share what I thought could be used by educators instead of um, content which represents inadequate representation, but I'll come to it. But it's interesting to see another perspective that you shared. Also, our textbooks or reference materials do kind of have stereotypes embedded a lot. I found this about Indian textbooks, that a lot of math textbooks include some roles which are performed by men, such as farmers, milkmen, shopkeepers, etc., whereas women are usually depicted to show cooking, cleaning, etc. Males are represented as lazy. For example, in textbooks, a lazy male frog is depicted, and in the type of attire chosen, they show very few girls wearing outfits like jeans. So that's one. And what happens as a result of choosing such content is that it leads to stereotyping of character. It leads to children thinking about these roles where women aren't visible, and it leads to polarization of male and female characteristics. Versus if we choose images like this, where you see mostly adequate or equal number of males and females. That's again the same team that the New Zealand PM has, but that now represents a mix of or mostly equal males and females. Here you can see male and female soldiers and space scientists. So I think when we select material, we can, as educators, try to the extent possible that we don't stereotype or polarize male or female characters or occupations, and that's just minor. Those we can do those things individually in our classrooms. And we can also teach so much through role models. That's Padman. What he did was revolutionary
Yeah.
in the sense that it's not common for a male to go about, researching pads so much to the
Yeah.
extent that he himself wore the pads for some days before he asked the women to test it and give some reviews to him. There are examples of Malala and Neerja who fought terrorists. So even in terms of these are again, really breaking stereotypes. So if we select content, give projects and activities which involve learning through role models which have broken those stereotypes, then that can be really enriching for the students. The other area where there is a lot of scope to eliminate gender biases in the way we interact, like I already said, that a lot of roles are typical in textbooks and in academic content, which are, um, you know, related to men or women. And we can consider eliminating that language, especially when we write assignments or even when we speak to children. So just simple things like instead of saying mankind, we could say humankind or chairperson or a police officer instead of a policeman. And at least now, especially since laws have been more open to, homosexual partners, I think it's essential to even teach our not they're too young to be taught this directly, but we could even just refer to a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband or a wife as a partner and not assuming that they would be of the same sex. Um, Firefighter, like I already said, spouse or partner. I think these simple changes, if we make in the way we speak or give out assignments or put on our slides, um, just subconsciously, that's how the children would grow up interacting. In fact, I just remembered I have a friend um, who got a meal for a group of people, and it was really delicious. And everyone was prompt to say, "Oh, you seem to have a wife who cooks really well," and in actuality, his partner's male. So it's not anyone's fault, but it's just that we have grown up assuming that cooking is something that the women do in our country. So teaching our children through these small changes, that goes a long way. So this is something we've all come across where we try, if we don't know somebody's gender, we avoid using he or she, and we avoid greeting children as boys and girls and instead say hello children or hello everyone, or avoid using guys and use terms like foods. Any thoughts on this so far? What do you think this would How do you think this could impact children or
Yeah,
educators even?
yeah, I think it's very important for educators, like, to understand that, okay, there is enough literature that is available in the market where it depicts that either women can do everything or men can do everything.
Right,
Uh, and it comes to the country's context and culture also, that generation wise, what has been passed on through. So
exactly.
I think yes, I think coming out of those framework of textbooks and published materials, I feel that yes, I mean, there has a lot, it has to do a lot of things we have to continue working on,
Yeah,
especially this when we speak about LGBT community, or humanizing the curriculum, or colonization, kind of decolonizing all of these thought process. So it's really, I think, on the impact
mhm,
is going to be also on the word choice,
yeah.
how teachers are going to use the word choices. Miss Ashika, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah.
Your
Uh, I was thinking that how when we have to start the MYP with our students, you have to use the language again and again,
Mhm,
like key concept, global context, ATL. So if we keep repeating those words, then
mhm,
only the students will realize that, okay, it will become
yeah,
like a vocabulary for them. Otherwise, they will go with gender bias and they will keep thinking. You have to explicitly
mhm,
make use of those terminologies, and you have to create that awareness among the students. Then only you will be able to achieve. Otherwise,
right.
it is difficult, because the culture is such. At home, what they see and what they experience is totally different than what
Different.
we are going to talk about, right? So in order for
Exactly.
them to have that awareness, first thing is creating an awareness, because right now they are in a world where everybody is gender biased, okay, and they
Yeah.
can see it around. So
Yes.
unless and until you create an awareness first, and then it becomes like a habit for them.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also, and that's why why a program, international programs like the IB,
Mhm,
or
yes.
is accelerating across the societies, because they are the program itself. You would see, Mansi, when you were,
Mhm,
the program itself is being very supportive to students
mhm,
also,
exactly.
on creating that awareness, what Miss Ashika was talking about.
Absolutely. So yes, I agree. Like I think then children they over time end up imitating what the adults do. So if it depends on what adults model for them, while we can't control, like Miss Ashika said, what happens at home, but at least at the school as a culture, um, if they are taught to be neutral, then that can definitely help them in their adult life when they are mature enough to make their own choices. And I think it's also tricky to teach this to someone, let's say in PYP 1, where, gender itself is, I mean, it's not something they understand. So things like binary and fluid and things like that, those things are very complex for them. But like Miss
But
Ashika said,
but I think sorry to interrupt you, this one, Mansi, but
huh,
I think through play, okay, when
yeah.
we have in the early years, when we have this
Yes.
play activity where all the early years are there together and they are deciding, and I have a learning center where you have to dress up baby and feed them, and then I have a
Okay,
car wash activity, so usually boys
absolutely.
would go to car wash and girls would go to baby
Yeah,
dressing and all that. But it is not the case, because when they are young and when you give those opportunities and you say, okay, you decide what do you want. So I have seen boys go and feed the baby and girls go
okay,
and do the car wash. So when you
absolutely.
create those opportunities, okay, for
Yes,
students, then I think that slowly and slowly you are trying to make them understand about gender neutrality.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good example actually. And that I think at PYP level, teaching through play is a really great method.
Yeah.
Um, so here's, and I think I have some things, Miss Ashika, which I remember from the rules that we set at Edubridge in terms of similar rules for boys and girls. I'll come to that.
Hmm.
But in terms of classroom interactions and general school practices, it's quite common to quickly group the class based on gender and say boys line up here, girls line up here, having skirts for girls as a uniform and then pants for boys. Here are some direct ways in which gender bias is seen. Even I remember when I was in college, when we had science lab practicals, uh, if my roll number is 20 and 21 is a boy, then they skip and assign 22, who's a female, to me as a lab partner. So the grouping was always girls together and boys together. So I think it's quite common still to queue up as boys and girls or separate uniforms or grouping based on gender. So I think those are some areas where educators can consciously try to eliminate bias and make it a more neutral environment.
But
Um,
I think that, sorry to interrupt you, but
hmm,
in terms of uniform, if I look at the schools that I have worked in, so my
hmm,
previous school, Ecole Mondiale, and then Edubridge also,
hmm.
there
Yeah,
the girls were allowed to choose what they wanted to
what they
wear,
want
whether
to
it
wear.
was
Yeah,
trousers or whether it was skirts. So I think
absolutely.
it was a matter of choice, not that
Choice.
girls
Yeah,
should wear skirts and boys should wear trousers.
exactly.
So they were given a choice of what uniform they would want to wear. So I think
Absolutely.
over there we were thinking about the student
Neutrality.
agency,
Yes,
what they want to do and
exactly.
what they are comfortable in.
Exactly. And I think even that's exactly what I was going to come to, Ms. Ashika. So you shared that already that one, so here, as you can see, that's the Edubridge uniform. There's an orange t-shirt, which is common for everyone.
Mm.
And then you can choose, the children can choose whether they want to wear shorts, they want to wear tights, they want to wear full track pants. That's entirely up to them. And there's no separate uniform as such, but there's just choice in terms of what the children feel
Yeah, just want
comfortable
to
in.
again interrupt here, because
Hmm.
I know when Norbu joined school, he joined in grade 10 and he
Yeah.
was very conscious about wearing
Just,
shorts. So then he
yes.
took permission, can I wear
Track
those
pants.
track pants? And then he said,
Absolutely.
okay, you can. And then when he started wearing those shorts, then he was least bothered, when he saw
Yes.
that everybody is very comfortable and it is so
Comfortable.
hot wearing those long pants. Then he went off to
Absolutely.
shorts, and then when he went to college also, he was like, I want three-fourths and I want shorts. I was like,
Exactly.
yeah. So then it depends, upon the environment also, that then you think about, okay, now nobody's bothered about, and I told them,
Absolutely.
you wear what you
You
are
want.
comfortable in,
Yeah,
right? Don't think about what others
exactly.
are going to think, or my leg hair is looking and I'm looking so ugly. Don't think about what others think. You do what is good, what you feel is good.
I think that's a very good example of how that open environment helped a child to overcome that thinking that, maybe wearing shorts made him feel conscious about some body hair. But then I think this is maybe something that changes comfort
Yeah,
level forever. So I think
yeah,
that that's the long-term impact of having a school culture like that. Again, at Edubridge, it is very common to see boys and girls playing football together, staff and students playing football together, grouping. I think in most schools, especially in international schools, it's common for boys and girls to collaborate for group work and sit next to each other. There was another rule, Ms. Ashika can also share more about it, but also in Edubridge, the rule was never that boys are not allowed to have short hair. The general rule applicable for boys and girls was that the hair should not cover your eyes. And if you do, then irrespective of whether if a boy or a girl has long hair, you have to either wear a hairband or tie your hair up.
yeah.
So, because again, some simple rules which can help, uh, children grow up without stereotypes that long hair is something for girls. So,
Yeah, in my other school where I taught as an MYP coordinator, the first rule was that everybody's hair should be short. But then there was one student in the DP who said
hmm,
that no, it is my decision that I want to grow my hair, and if I am keeping it neat and tidy, okay,
tidy.
I don't look messy, then you should not have any problem with my long hair. So then he argued about it with the principal and the
Hmm,
coordinators and all, and then we decided, okay, what is the uniform policy? Should we say, because we have to think about others, this
hmm,
choice also, right, what they want. So we said, okay, you can have long hair, but you have to wear a hairband and you have to tie a
hairband.
pony. So then he was fine with that, and we were fine. So everybody was happy. So we
Happy.
agreed on that. Yeah, yeah, I remember that. But earlier it was like boys short hair and girls, if it is long hair, you have to tie it into a plait or a pony. You cannot leave it
Right.
open and look messy. Yeah. So that was there. So that
Absolutely.
was what how the school changed its policy towards uniform code and the dress code.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes it comes from the children also. In this case, maybe the school didn't plan for it, but it seems like the school was flexible to make changes
Yeah.
when students express that this is how they feel comfortable.
Yes.
So that's something for leaders. Just a reflection question. We generally, if we were to think about any institution which would divide a class or form rules based on economic status or religious backgrounds, then that certainly a society wouldn't accept it. And dividing a class based on gender, we shouldn't make that an exception. That's equally, like we saw, negative. It can create as negative an impact as dividing by religion or economic background would have. So that's one. Just to conclude, I was thinking about certain things, like while we would like individually, some teachers might want to make an environment gender neutral, but what are some changes that they can make easily? But some might, I mean, like we already discussed, things might be different in terms of the culture at home, and we can't control that. So, what changes that we discussed might be slightly difficult to achieve, even though we might want to? So that is just the summary discussion for today in terms of pros and cons or strengths and limitations of these practices.
So just forcing your idea will
Hmm.
not help.
Yeah.
Saying that it is rule or thing, making them ask for justification. Why are you saying so? That makes more sense, because even in the IB, when you look at the
Hmm.
mission statement, it says that different people can have different perspectives and they can be right in both ways, right?
Right.
So yeah, so when we are looking at changes, think about that, think about both the sides, what the person is uh, suggesting in terms of changes. Look
Hmm.
at who agrees, take a
Hmm.
consensus, and then maybe look at the change. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
I
also
think,
say that, sorry, Mansi, go ahead.
yes, no, Vishal, you go ahead.
No, I would also say that it has to do a lot also with how schools approach as well this whole concept of gender equality.
Yeah.
There are some particular instincts, I mean, in instances that really happened in the past that really triggered where, when it came to child safety, child protection, and all of those things that really took place. I think, and this is also emphasized by CIS also when
Hmm.
they approach schools
Yes.
for evaluation. How do you ensure that there is a balance not only among students, but also amongst teachers? And I think it has to do a lot with value classes like PSHE, like values classes,
Hmm.
or a lot of those like awareness program, what Ms. Ashika was talking about earlier. So I think it has to be, I mean, that's only my opinion, but I would just like to invite others also into add on to this. Now I see Abir and Shiv. Hi guys. Also, so yeah, just I think it has to get going with schools.
Yes,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
maybe like now, right now, schools have to create their program development plan, right?
Yeah.
So think about, maybe this could be one factor where you feel that, okay, this is a serious issue, and maybe you need to think about this. How can we improve our understanding of equity or gender bias, whatever. So that also could be done as a whole school thing, right?
Right. Yes, those are some great suggestions. Um, so yeah, any further final concluding thoughts? I have just thought of wrapping up the discussion with
I think that you should take this as a EduConverse this also session also, and call in some people
definitely.
who think about this,
Yes.
especially social emotional counselors.
Yeah.
Invite them,
Yes.
ask them about these questions, and discuss it. I think it will make a very good topic for conversation.
As well
Definitely.
for Teach Meet as well, Mansi,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Yes,
Go ahead.
definitely. Definitely.